But I think everyone
Brian, you can pause the recording.
Good evening. It's 7 o'clock on the dot. Thank you for everybody for showing up on time. This is the November 2024 meeting of the Durham Bicycle Pedestrian and Advisory Commission. I would like to call this meeting to order. We will do introductions and roll call in a moment, but I'd like to start with our equity and land acknowledgement, which Landon has volunteered to read for us, please.
We, as the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission, want to begin this meeting by affirming BPAC's commitment to equity and racial justice. We would like to acknowledge that this meeting is being held on lands that have served as the home for diverse indigenous communities long before current governments were established here. We pay our respect to the elders and members of these communities, both past and present, and recognize the harms of genocide and colonialism. We will make a conscious effort to reflect on the following questions as we advance through our business and contemplate changes in our community. And we recognize that achieving equity requires our commitment to an ongoing process. How can we seek to repair harm with our work and not erase history? How does our work impact the vulnerability and safety of people who may hold intersecting marginalized identities, including Black, Indigenous, and people of color, people with disabilities, and lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and questioning people? How can we prioritize and center people in our decision-making? How can we be more responsive to local needs? And how can our work build community power and shared decision-making?
Thank you very much for that. Okay. We have a very full agenda tonight, everybody. We're going to do introductions in a minute. I just want to remind kind of a few things of how we like to run it on Zoom. I'm going to serve as chair. When we have points of discussion, I will ask if you can use the raise your hand function from the reactions button at the bottom of your screen. If you can't find that, turn your camera on and just do this until I acknowledge you. And please wait till I call on you. That way we can eliminate any crosstalk and keep this going. I'm going to work very hard to keep us on time tonight. I think we will probably go over time, to be perfectly honest, but I will try to keep us going. With that, I'd like for us all to do introductions. If you can turn on your camera, please do. If you can't, we understand, but we will go around the screen as I see it with introductions. If you're on the commission, please just say who you are, what you cover, and what you do on BPAC. And then everybody else, members of the public, please feel free to just say who you are and perhaps why you're here. I'm Brian Hawkins. I'm the chair of BPAC. I also serve on the DevRev committee. Next on my screen, I see John Lawler.
John Lawler. I'm on the DevRev committee as well. This is, I guess, starting beginning of month 3 or end of month 2 or so. I'm still the new person.
Thank you very much. Landon.
My name is Landon Balcom. I joined this commission the same time as Brian Hawkins did, and I serve on the DevRev committee.
Thank you much. Maggie.
I'm the newest person. This is my first full meeting, and I am representing Recreation, Urban Trails, and Greenways.
Thank you and welcome. Nathan.
Hi, I'm the Duke liaison. I've been on the commission since last summer, and I'm also the subcommittee chair for the Planning and Policy Subcommittee.
Thank you much. Mary Rose.
Hi, I'm Mary Rose. I participate in the PMP, formerly known as PI. I don't even remember what the new acronym stands for. And I'm the Vision Zero liaison.
Thank you very much. Ting. You are on mute.
Hey. Hi, I'm Ting. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm the general public, and I'm attending this meeting to talk about my concerns about a specific section on the trail, the American Tobacco Trail.
Okay, thank you for joining us.
Of course. Thank you.
Welcome. Chris.
I'm Chris Perlstein. I am the, I think, transportation policy slot for the city. I've been on for 6 months, and I'm also a member of the Planning and Policy Commission. I forget what we called it.
Great, thank you. Royal.
Hey, I'm Royal. I serve as the North Carolina Central University liaison.
Thank you. Carl. Oh no. Carl, you've got a terrible connection. Carl Rist is our city council liaison, and I hope you get that fixed. Yeah, you're completely chopped up.
You're speaking in PowerPoint.
Jeff.
I think Carl's on AOL. Jeff McAldrick, I represent the city in that large seat. This is my second stint on BPAC. I've been on since spring of 23, and previously I was on BPAC from 2014 to 2016. And I'm the liaison to the bike ped implementation plan.
Thank you very much. Scott.
Yes, hi, Scott Carter, and I am the chair of the Development Review Committee, and I've been on BPAC maybe a year and a half.
Thank you, thank you. Hannah Bartlebow.
I'm the youth advocacy slot from the county, been on BPAC since the summer, July, August, and the very new community engagement subcommittee chair.
Very good. Ed.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ed Rizzuto. I am a county appointee serving in the disability advocacy seat, and I participate in the community engagement committee as well.
Thank you. Hannah Salvaggio.
Hi, everyone. I am the bike ped planner with the city of Durham, and I'm the staff liaison for BPAC.
Thank you very much. Tony.
Thank you. I'm Tony Reevy. I'm a member of the commission and of the Planning and Policy Committee, and I am an at-large member from the county.
Thank you. Brooke.
Brian, good evening, everyone. I'm Brooke Groper. I'm a transportation planner with Durham County Transportation Department, and I'm here tonight with Brian to talk about the bike walk plan update.
Thank you very much. We're glad to have you. Heidi.
Hi, everybody. I'm Heidi Carter. I'm the liaison from the Durham County Board of Commissioners.
Thank you very much. Tanya.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tanya McCrae, and I'm here as a concerned resident of Durham to discuss an area in our community that's just having some issues on the Tobacco Trail.
Okay, thank you. Welcome. Team, we talked to Brian Taylor.
I'm Brian Taylor, Principal Transportation Planner in the City of Durham Transportation Department, and I'm presenting on the bike walk plan update tonight with Brooke.
Thank you very much. Andres.
Hi, everyone. My name is Andres. I'm having camera troubles. I have sat on BPAC as a county rep for a little over a year, since July of last year. And I run our social media presence and sit on the community engagement committee.
Thank you much. Robin?
Robin Young, City of Durham Transportation Department.
Welcome. Aspen?
Hi there, Aspen Romine. I am not on BPAC. I just like to listen in sometimes. Thank you.
We're happy to have you. Thanks. Taylor?
Hi, everyone. Taylor Price, a member of Durham's Environmental Affairs Board, just listening in today.
Okay, thank you very much for being here. Ellen?
Sorry. Ellen Beckman, Durham County Transportation.
Welcome. Thanks for joining us. And Trevay? Trevay's iPhone?
Yes, Trevay Willis. I am the liaison for the paratransit and transportation for the BPAC. Happy to be here tonight.
Thank you very much. Okay, I think I got everybody. Making sure I haven't missed.
Hey, Brian, this is Trent.
Oh, Trent, I'm so sorry, man.
Trent Cormier, County at Large. Good evening, everybody.
Glad to have you here. Thanks for sounding off. Okay, now we have everybody. All right. Hannah, do we have any excused absences?
None that I'm aware of.
Okay, very good. In that case, we can move on to, you have any updates on new members or openings?
Yes, so Maggie already introduced herself, but Maggie is the newest member. She was sworn in. I got the notification today, so I don't know if you went in today, but now an official voting member, and very excited to have her on the commission. I don't know if you want to say anything for a second.
Happy to be here.
Great, great. And then besides that, now we only have one vacancy, and that is the youth representative with the city. And we are actually, I believe that's on the agenda for today to talk about reclassifying that to be at large.
Okay. Do we have any youth applicants at this time that you know of?
To my knowledge, no.
Okay, thank you. That leads.
Brian, hey, Brian, this is Carl. Can you hear me better now?
Yes, much better.
Different computer, off AOL. I'm trying to download the agenda for Thursday to see if, like, I thought we had some names, but I'm going to check right now while we're talking.
Okay, great. Maybe when we come back around to that topic, if you have some, we can talk about it then. It'll be soon-ish. Thanks. Speaking of the agenda, does anybody have any adjustments to it? Looking around, not seeing any hands. Great. We can move on then to the minutes from the October meeting. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to look at those. Does anybody have any questions or comments on the October minutes? Which are...
Motion to approve minutes.
Is that Jeff?
Yes.
Thank you.
Second.
Second from Tony, I believe. All in favor of approving the October minutes as written?
Aye.
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 And any in opposition? Fantastic. The motion carries. October minutes are approved. Okay. Oh, I'm in the minutes. Back to the agenda. Okay. Sometimes we don't have much public comment. I think tonight that's not going to be the case. So we have several people here, I think at least 3 or 4 by my count. If anybody is here to offer public comment, can you please raise your hand either on camera or with the gesture button at the bottom of your screen, just so I know what the queue looks like. I see Ting. There's I think it's the react button at the bottom. If you kind of push that, hand raise is one of the options. Tanya and Ting, anyone else? I just want to make sure I'm not missing anybody. Okay, great. We usually limit these to 3 minutes apiece just to make sure everybody has room to speak. If there's only 2 of you, we can maybe go to 4 or 5. So I will kind of keep that to keep us on track. But Tanya, you have the floor, all yours.
Thank you very much. Again, my name is Tanya McCray. I am a member of the Durham community. I'm a resident here. I've been living here for about 4 years. I'm here today to discuss an urgent issue involving our community. One it impacts not only our safety and well-being, but the residents. And really, it has to do with an overall issue of crime, homelessness, and neglect. There is a section of the American Tobacco Trail that has been all but ignored. I don't know if it's just an issue with resources. I really don't know what the problem is, but I do understand that me, myself, and some of our neighbors have called many times to request services, and we don't see anything that's being done about it. I have been in the middle of a drive-by shooting. Me, myself. Just recently there was a fire that happened because there is an encampment right outside of Pilot Street and Fayetteville Street. And we recognized that was going to be an issue because the occupants start fires every day to keep warm and to cook. And every day I was calling because I'm like, it's an open flame. And so I walked that trail every day, and I did not see where, there was anyone coming to, see or put the fire out. And sure enough, the fire was uncontrollable and burned it down. So that's a safety concern. And this is every day. Not only that, you can't even walk the trail without, someone bothering you. So it just impacts our ability. The trail is not being used. It's not being used for what it's supposed to be used for. Our vision of what the trail is supposed to be for, we want a bikeable city, a walkable city, a thriving city. And I just believe that if this was happening somewhere else in Durham, there would be more resources, and it would be something being done about it. And we just would like, our neighbors, we talk a lot. We just would like for, someone to advocate for us, the resources to be placed, to maybe find something somewhere for some help for these people. I'm not saying, I know, I do realize that homelessness is a systemic issue, but there's some things going on over there that need some attention. We need some more lighting over there. There needs to be some attention, over there, because like I said, it seems like it's just being ignored. So thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for taking the time to come here and to voice your concerns to us and through us. Ting, would you like to go next? The floor is yours.
Yeah, of course. Hi, my name is Ting, and I also would like to address the issue we're having with the encampment on the American Tobacco Trail crossing the Fayetteville Street. This is a very busy area with many Durham locals shopping at the Food Lion in that area, and people using the trail recreationally and also for transportation. So as a resident in this area, I use the trail regularly too. And I'm very familiar with this condition, and it has become increasingly concerned. And I have become increasingly concerned because I think, frankly, it has gotten worse over the last couple of years. The the encampment, like Tanya said, they're built with cardboards, fabrics, scrap materials, plastics, and they're occupied by homeless individuals. And I also have witnessed open fire, and it will occur probably more with the weather getting cooler. And they also have grills out for cooking, which is also a huge fire hazard. And just 2 weeks ago, the place got burned down and a new encampment started not too far from the initial site. So that is a huge concern. And then I also want to mention about the sanitation challenges in this area. There's trash, there are tissues, beer bottles, even human urine or feces around the area. There are presence of rodents that's attracted by these conditions. So it's not very sightful. Every time I pass by, whether on my bike or I walk, it's not very clean. And criminal activities too, as Tanya mentioned, with the drive-by shooting, we hear gunshots in coming from that area all hours of day and night. And I moved to this area in 2019, and there have been 3 murders that I know of on that site and nearby that area. So definitely, I don't feel safe going to the trail. And given the sanitation challenges, the criminal activities, the hazardous conditions, and just general nonsense, I feel like the city and the Durham police have mostly been tolerant of this issue, and no improvement have been seen. In fact, it's gotten worse. So I would like to ensure that these issues have been addressed and heard, and steps can be taken to improve this. Whether it involves cleaning the site, providing support for the homeless individuals, and implementing measures in enhancing the public safety. And to piggyback on what Tanya said, I do feel like in no other parks or public spaces in Durham are conditions like this one that exists at the intersection of the Fable Street and Tobacco Trail tolerated by the city. And I hope that the city will address the concerns in my neighborhood the same way that the other parts of Durham would. And thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. And again, thank you for taking the time to come here to voice your concerns. This is a public forum. This all goes into the record. So thank you for doing that. Is there anybody else here to offer public comment? Heidi, go ahead.
I don't want to offer public comment, but I did want to respond to both Tanya and Ting. These were very compelling comments that you brought forward to us with a lot of good details and really significant concerns that I'm sure everyone shares and wants to respond to. I'm glad you made us fully aware of this. I know some of us probably are aware of it. I also use that part of the trail quite a bit. You know, the ATT is city, parks, and rec, but I see this as a community-wide issue, and certainly the county has some responsibility in it too. I personally can take your concerns, directly to the county manager, also to the Homeless Services Advisory Council, and find out what is being done by way of street outreach. Have these individuals been offered shelter space? We actually have a long wait list for space in our emergency shelter. This is a big community problem right now, and there are a number of people working on the system to make it better. But this is more emergent, and I really am glad you brought it forward, and I will look into it from my end as a county commissioner.
Thank you for that, Heidi.
Can I just offer one more thing?
Yeah, sure.
The trash from the fire has never been cleaned up. You can still smell the soot from the trash. There's an entire sofa that's on the trail, just right off the side of the trail. And they just keep piling trash, off of the trail. I mean, you can see it, it's very unsightly. And I mean, I don't know if you've visited that area, but it is it's very hard to miss. And for us, the residents that live right there, to have this beautiful trail right off the side of our neighborhood, and we want to be able to use it for its intended use. It's just very sad. It's just very sad that this is happening.
Okay.
So
Thank you. Carl knew I was going to call on him next anyway, so go for it, Carl.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. First of all, Tanya and Ting, thanks for coming tonight to share your concerns. I can't say it as well as Heidi Carter did, so thanks, Heidi, for your response there. I agree 100% with all the stuff that Heidi said. It is the American Tobacco Trail and other trails are the responsibility of DPR to maintain. So I've sent a message already as you were talking to the director of DPR just to get and then I should say, I'm also aware of that situation. I think we talked about it at our last meeting, in fact. So send a message to Wade Walcott at Parks and Rec, just ask him what he and the city are doing to address the concerns about safety and health concerns there. So again, thanks for your feedback. I'm sorry about that, and we'll get on it.
Thank you. Yeah, I will say we have discussed this before. Landon, who's on this commission and is your neighbor, has brought it to our attention, and I think also publicized this meeting. So thank you, Landon, for doing that. I definitely think we need to talk about this as a commission. I think we should put some time on the agenda next month to do that. Maybe possibly including and leading to some formal communication out to our electeds and anyone else in the local government that we need to write to. I think maybe what we could do is use our committee meetings and email to decide what the shape would take, but this will definitely be on the agenda next month. Landon, we had talked about if you wanted to take a crack at starting a draft letter, if you've got the bandwidth to do that this month.
Happy to do so.
Feel empowered to do that. And I will say also, anyone else in the commission, if you want to contribute to that, many hands make light work. So please feel free to do so. Chris and then Jeff, and then we are going to need to move on to our presentations after this. But
yeah, I just want to say
Jeff.
I'd love to help you out with this, Landon. So please feel free to reach out. I think this is a broader issue too of how we deal with negative impacts to pedestrian, cyclist, and transit infrastructure, and the prioritization that gets relative to disruptive behavior to car traffic. And this is a pattern I've seen in my area, and I bike through that area weekly, multiple times a week, and it's just getting worse and worse. And it kind of it can't just get ignored anymore.
Someone was shooting at cars on I-40 and it made national news, but people shoot across that trail daily and nothing.
Yep, great point. Thanks, Chris. Jeff, go ahead.
Just a quick thought. Do we want to try and arrange informally a trip for some commissioners on BPAC to actually visit that location to see firsthand? I know some of you are familiar with it. I'm not familiar with that section of the trail.
I'll lead it.
Maybe we can discuss that via email. I would be more than happy to participate in that.
Great. Yeah, Landon, if you take that to email and
I can run point on all things with this.
Thank you. Maybe offer your availability. One more comment from Tony, and then we will need to move on.
Yeah, I was just going to say, second what Jeff said. I think to understand a problem like this, you need to see it. So I would like to be part of that, and I think anyone who's interested in this issue should go see it firsthand.
Okay. Thank you all very much. And Tanya and Ting, thank you again for coming here and sharing with us tonight. You are welcome to hang out as long as you want. This will be a long meeting, but please feel free to stay. Okay, we are going to move on now to our guest speakers. We have twin presentations from the county and the city. We have both Brooke Roper and Brian Taylor, who are going to be presenting tonight. So who's going first?
So it's actually, oh, excuse us. Thanks, Brian. It's one presentation. So
okay.
I think Brian Taylor will be sharing his screen. and kicking us off.
Okay, great. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Can everyone see the presentation? I have two screens, so it's kind of hard to tell.
I'll take the opportunity to ask that it be sent out by email at some point, because I cannot see the presentation.
Ed, I did send it out on Friday. I can try to find it in an email again to bump it back up.
Okay, all right. I didn't see that. Thank you, Hannah.
Yeah, no worries. I'll try to find it in the email and send it to you right now.
Okay, terrific. Thanks.
Can everyone see the presentation? I want to make sure.
Yes.
Okay. As mentioned earlier, I'm Brian Taylor, Principal Transportation Planner with the City of Durham Transportation Department. I'm going to be partnering on this presentation tonight with Brooke Roper from Durham County, and we are going to describe the city and the county part of this Durham Bike Walk Plan update. I'm going to cover the beginning of the presentation, looking at the project area, the team, and the schedule. Then I'll go over some of the scope items that are have greater focus on the city's priorities. So that would include the comprehensive bike pedestrian network plans, although that does include the areas of the county. And I'll cover priority projects. I'll hand it off then to Brooke to cover policies and guidance on best practices and public engagement coming up. And then we will stop for questions. The project area and the team. So the last bike walk plan was just the city. This will be this time the bike walk plan update will include the city of Durham and all of Durham County. And importantly, the urban growth boundary, where we had a lot of requests for sidewalk and bike facilities. On the project team, me and Brooke are managers on that, on the city side and the county side. Ellen Beckman with the county is also regularly attending meetings. And we have hired Alta and Idealisms to help us with the planning and the engagement for this project. We also have the MPO helping us out with the administration of the contract. The funding for this planning update came through the MPO. And David Miller is our contact on that. This is a summary of the schedule. We kicked off the project in August, and we've been working to collect all the data we would need on existing additions related to sidewalks and bike facilities, intersections, all the data we might need for prioritization. And we've been doing a lot of plan review. There have been a lot of plans that that need to be reviewed, and new projects that have come about that need to be considered. Sorry. We are about to start putting together our comprehensive plan, our comprehensive network recommendations. And then we will also be starting our prioritization process soon with a working group. And throughout this process, we will go to the public for input, initially on areas where you think you may need a sidewalk, and then we will come back to collect feedback on the planning deliverables. So when we come back with a recommended bicycle network for all the city and county, or recommended pedestrian network, we'll come back for feedback on that. Or if once we identify priority projects, we'll come back to the public feedback on that throughout this process. One of the priorities of this plan update is the establishment of a comprehensive bike and pedestrian network. And I'm going to cover some of the background on that. Then go through, briefly touch on the comprehensive transportation plan. I'll try not to linger on that. And then talk about bike facilities for all ages and abilities. So the last time we had a comprehensive network plan for bicycle facilities or sidewalk facilities was 2006. And this was missing from our last plan. So the bike walk implementation plan, it's kind of in the name. It was an implementation plan and it did not have a countywide or even citywide network recommendations. That is an issue because we have a unified development ordinance that references the comprehensive transportation plan, which I'll talk about in just a second. But that comprehensive transportation plan, as you can see this graphic, is referencing that comprehensive bicycle plan from 2006. It's referencing Durham walks from 2006 and some the Trail and Greenways master plan from 2011. A lot of those recommendations are outdated, and for example, they're saying we want a unprotected bicycle facility on all of our major roads, and that is no longer what anybody's considering an all ages and abilities facility in most cases. So that's something we want to be able to update to make sure that we can take advantage of opportunities to build out our bicycle and pedestrian network. And that's a really big part of this update for us, is taking advantage of opportunities, whether that be development or an NCDOT project. Many of you may know it's been taking the city a long time to construct sidewalks. Meanwhile, development has been moving very fast. We want to be able to take advantage of that and make sure that when we were acquiring things of the developers, those are all ages and abilities facilities. Or NCDOT has a project somewhere that's also helping us build out the proper facility for bicycling or walking or crossing the street to get to a bus stop. As I mentioned earlier, the comprehensive transportation plan, this is where we find a lot of our recommendations from 2006. I think this will look pretty familiar to some of our BPAC members who do development review. In the back, we often have cross sections like this. So we have a 4-lane arterial with an unprotected bike lane. This is no longer what we consider to be an all ages and abilities facility, and it leads to results like this. So we have new development happening on the edge of Durham, and with the way our UDO is currently structured and what it references, it says only when you are widening a road can you add a bike lane, and it's usually just a strip of asphalt on one side of a road. This is Carolina Arbors on the far eastern edge of Durham city limits. And another example we have is from DOT. They have a new project where they were widening an intersection at North Roxborough, Denfield, and Horton. They are turning this, the southern section, they're widening it to 5 lanes, and they added an unprotected 5-foot bike lane. We asked them why. They said that's what we had in our comprehensive transportation plan, which is referencing our 2006 comprehensive bike plan for Durham. So we want to update the bike walk plan to make sure that our UDO is referencing bike plan or whatever plan, whether it's a CTP or whether we go with our own street plan for the city of Durham. We want to make sure that we're getting the appropriate cross section. So instead of the one at the top, you'd see an alternative cross section more like the one on the bottom, with a certain level of protective facility, also street trees, and maybe a different street cross section as well. In terms of the bicycle facility, one of the things we'll be looking at is the speed and volume of traffic to determine what level of separation is needed. And there's been a lot of research on this in the past 10 years. Recently we have been able to acquire enough data to estimate that preferred facility based on estimated traffic, speed, and volume on all of Durham's roads. So we'll be applying that during this plan to help us decide what types of bicycle facilities belong on what types of streets, whether that would be a shared street, or a bike lane, a buffered bike lane, or a protected bike lane, or a shared use path. And all this we are expecting to result in a comprehensive network for the whole city and the whole county, with different types of bicycle facilities and pedestrian facilities recommended on different streets and intersections. So this could range from a bike lane to a protected bike lane, a two-way cycle track. We'll also be looking for side paths and greenways, bicycle boulevards, and commercial shared streets for all of Durham. I know that we're signing and adding traffic calming on some bicycle boulevards right now, but we'd like to be able to identify what that network may look like for all of Durham. We also want to identify new intersection improvements and also important mid-block crossings on dangerous streets, especially around bus stops. Now I'm going to jump to one of the second priorities of the bike walk plan update, and that's coming up with a new list of priority projects. I'm going to go through that process of prioritization quickly and then talk a little bit about project development. In terms of the prioritization of bike and pedestrian network gaps, we are starting with hundreds of pedestrian network gaps, hundreds of intersections, and hundreds of bike network gaps. So we have to narrow that down. And we use different prioritization factors related to safety, connectivity, demand, and equity. One of the important ways we want to measure equity is something called a transportation disadvantage index. And that's using a lot of different demographic information on transportation disadvantaged populations. So we would be looking at 0 and no car households, we'd be looking at poverty statistics, we'd be looking at minority demographics, if you're a BIPOC community, limited English proficiency, the number of people ages below 16 or above a certain age that make you less likely to be able to drive a car, and all those factor into an index. You can see that here in the bottom right-hand corner. That'd be one way we would measure equity and allot certain points in the prioritization process to a particular bike or pedestrian network gap. Some of those other factors there would be connectivity, demand, and equity. I put this map here to try to illustrate some of this. So demand metric could be proximity of a sidewalk network gap to a high boarding bus stop, which you can see this big pink dot would be that, or proximity to a grocery store or pharmacy, or so we have little dots here. So you would get certain points allotted to a sidewalk gap if you were near one of these spots. If you are on a dangerous street, so if you see a pink line here, this is a street with dangerous speeds and traffic volumes. If you are a street with no sidewalk on either side of the road, so you can see that up here we have a, I believe that's Danube. There's no sidewalk on either side of Danube. So you're a lot of different points based on these metrics of demand, safety, or equity, or connectivity. And that helps us narrow, this is more of a quantitative exercise. It helps us narrow down our list from hundreds of different gaps to around 50 or something manageable that a working group can look at. And as a second part of that process, the working group will be looking at future plans, need, feasibility, preliminary scope, and public input, things that are hard to quantify. And they'll also be going back and ground truthing or doing desktop exercises to confirm that the scores we see for certain gaps make sense of what we're seeing on the ground. And coming up with around with a smaller list of projects, and then with those priority pedestrian network gaps and bike gaps and intersections, looking at all that together and coming up with some projects, and specifically 25 bike or pedestrian focused projects, 25 sidewalk, what we're calling micro gap projects, like very small gaps of less than 1,000 feet of sidewalk, and 25 new intersection projects. And as part of that, we will be expecting the consultant to help us out with some conceptual designs for those projects, some cost estimates, and funding strategies to get them going. I'll hand it off to Brooke in just a second for policies and guidance, which is mainly focused on some of the county priorities. But the first one I will cover really quickly is a city project, and that is this city sidewalk delivery process. As some of you know, we've had a lot of trouble trying to get our existing sidewalk projects all the way through the process from design to right of way to bidding and construction. And this table kind of shows you that there's only a couple where that has happened in a timely manner in the past 5 years. And so we're looking at a lot of these projects here to see what were the bottlenecks and how can we speed that process along and address some of those challenges. We've completed a lot of interviews with city staff in the Public Works Department and in general services for with city staff that do right-of-way acquisition to figure out what some of those issues are. So we've completed all of those interviews with city staff, and now we're moving on to interview peer cities and at the city of Raleigh, Winston-Salem, and I think Richmond, Virginia. And with that, I'll pass it off to you, Brooke, and you can just tell me when you want me to advance the slide.
Sure, yeah, I think you can go 2 slides. Wonderful. Thank you, Brian. And thank you all again for letting us come and provide an update on the bike walk plan. We really appreciate it. So just for the next few slides, I'll be covering some of the county-specific transportation focal areas for the plan, specifically the bike ped infrastructure in Durham County. So as many of you probably already know, Durham County does not typically construct or maintain transportation infrastructure. Instead, the responsibility for building and maintaining bike and ped facilities typically falls to NCDOT or the city of Durham, depending on the location of that facility. The county it does not have the same resources, and in general, counties are not given, the same broad authority as municipalities to fund and regulate the construction and maintenance of roads and sidewalks. So this is a key issue we've been identifying and honing in on through the 2025 bike walk plan. So there are sidewalks located outside of city limits that have unclear maintenance responsibilities. There's about 5 miles worth of sidewalks that we've identified currently. And this can create gaps in the system, can lead to abandoned and poorly maintained or unsafe infrastructure. And inevitably, it would result in isolated areas with limited connectivity for people who need to walk and bike to get around. So we are currently working to identify the agencies who could be responsible for maintaining these, what we're calling abandoned or orphaned sidewalks, and proposing a clear, actionable maintenance policy that would ensure these facilities are maintained and well kept, so they remain safe and accessible for all users. So you can progress the slide. The bike walk plan will also include planning, evaluation, and recommendations for regional greenways in the county, which are outside of city limits. The study is going to establish a definition for a regional greenway, which is again just anticipated to be any greenways that connect to areas outside of municipal boundaries or those that cross boundary lines. So there will be some coordination with the Durham to Roxborough Rail Trail Plan. You may have heard some about this plan already. For just quick reference, this is a separate plan that will consider 26 miles of an inactive rail corridor into a multi-use trail. 18 miles of that trail would be located within Durham County, with the remaining 8 miles in Person County connecting to downtown Roxborough. This is a joint effort between NCDOT, the Durham County Transportation Department, the City of Durham Parks and Recreation Department, and the East Coast Greenway Alliance. And Destination by Design, based out of Boone, North Carolina, is the primary consultant for this work. Overall, the trail could provide critical connectivity, promote safe and sustainable mobility, enhance community well-being, and celebrate the area's rich history. So just quickly, the initial public engagement is projected to take place in early 2025. With the study completion aimed for next fall or winter period for that separate study. We're in the early planning stages of this, working on project branding and setting up our engagement plan, but you will hear more from that planning team soon. So moving on to the next slide and shifting back to the bike walk plan priorities. To strengthen our multimodal network. Again, we want to clarify maintenance responsibilities. We're looking to address specific sidewalk gaps, provide regional connectivity, as well as support city goals by aligning our efforts with the City of Durham's priorities on policy and project development. And we also would like to focus on safety and connectivity by evaluating safe routes to school infrastructure needs as schools function as, key and critical destinations for residents in Durham. So as we, you can move on to the next slide. Sorry, Brian. Thank you. As we wrap up, with the remaining slides, would like to highlight some upcoming engagement opportunities for the bike walk plan that are going to be happening this winter. Your expertise in bicycle and pedestrian issues is invaluable, and would like your input and would greatly appreciate your input. Would also love if you could share and spread the word about this plan with your own individual networks as well. So our team has recently launched the Bike Walk Plan webpage. As you can see on the screen, it's located on the Engage Durham website. And for those who may not know about Engage Durham, this is a platform that the City of Durham created to pull together a variety of different plans and engagement initiatives into a sort of one-stop shop for city and county residents trying to learn about what's happening in their community. It was created initially back in 2019 with the creation of the comprehensive plan and the Durham Transit Plan. And one key feature is that it uses the equitable community engagement blueprint. So I believe all of these plans incorporate that in some fashion. And so, as you can see on the screen, the Bike Walk Plan has its own page where you can learn more about the plan, sign up to receive plan updates, engage virtually through a quick survey and map that we have recently uploaded, and register for upcoming engagement events. So moving on to the next slide. This is a snapshot of the public input map, Would again love for each of you to review and leave comments on this map. Specifically, the map allows you to draw routes that either work well or need some improvements, identify points where there are obstacles in getting around Durham. This could be high traffic networks, it could be infrastructure gaps or poor maintenance. And then lastly, we're also asking residents to mark key destinations or places that you go to the most and you need to travel to. So each line or point you create allows you to add your own commentary. As you can see, that will be compiled and analyzed by our project team, and will be then taken back out for phase 2 engagement. And I didn't include a picture of this, but there is a quick survey we're asking folks to fill out as well. This is a more general, not geography specific survey that takes five minutes and will help our team draft the plan policies and kind of the different prioritization strategies. The map and the survey will close on January 17th. So you do have some time to get comments in. Let's see, moving on. So for the initial round of engagement, we will be hosting 3 different community events. The first will be on December 3rd at the main library. This will be a Spanish language session. So it will be hosted primarily in Spanish. We heard this as a need from the community. The second one will be on December 14th at the W.G. Pearson Center. And the last one will be January 16th at the Avila Center. We'll also be adding 8 pop-up events to our website soon. We don't have them all confirmed yet, so that's why you may not see them on there quite yet. But if you sign up for updates, you'll get a notification. And some of these pop-ups will be at the Durham Holiday Parade, the Leap 5K Jingle Run Walk event, and the Go Durham monthly transit meeting located at the Durham Transit Station. So moving on, I think that, yes, that completes our presentation. Thank you so much. Brian and I are here if you have any questions. I can also drop in the Engage Durham link if someone hasn't already, or my email in the chat. I'm relatively new, so would love to connect with you all and learn more from this group. But thank you all, and we're available for questions.
Thank you both very much. I think Hannah dropped the Engage Durham link into the chat already.
Yes, I did. And then also, Brooke, I added to the website all of the confirmed pop-up events we already have. So if people are interested in that information, the time, the location, all of that's on the website when you click on the Get Involved tab. And then I also put in the chat as well. So with the survey, kind of unique, but we're going to be doing drawings each week for people who did complete the survey from December 1st to January 17th, and you have the chance to win $50 each week. So definitely spread the word and get your comments in.
Great. We have one question from the chat from Treve, which is, when are Durham Transit meetings normally held?
I'm not sure if I understand that question, because are they talking about transit or transportation? If so, what type of meeting?
Treve, do you have the ability to come off mute and clarify?
Yeah, she just said a while ago about the Durham Transit has monthly meetings, and I was just trying to figure out, like, when are they held so that I can attend them monthly. That's what she was implying on. She said about a Durham transit meeting.
Got it.
Oh, it looks like Ellen just dropped it in the chat.
Yep.
Thank you, Ellen.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Do we have any other burning questions for Brian and Brooke? If not, I will thank you both for your time and for the update. It's good to see this get a refresh. I'll ask one quick question since we've got a minute, and then I think, yeah, okay. Brian, you alluded to one of the things that the consultants would be helping you figure out were funding strategies. Could you comment a little about what the range of possibilities could be there?
Haven't really gotten to that section yet.
Okay.
But and it would also be different naturally, or maybe for the city versus the county.
Okay.
But as you can see, we are starting to look at bond funding, and more so than we have in the past. So that will open up more opportunities. I think also one thing to consider is beyond funding is staffing. Do we have the staff to push through more projects and right-of-way acquisition, for example? Like, how many can we do at one time? That's what we're trying to figure out right now with the sidewalk delivery process. Is like, even if we're getting the money, maybe that money is going to a project management consultant or something like that. But what is our actual throughput now in terms of number of projects we can manage at one time for design or for right-of-way acquisition, so that we can, even if we have the construction funding, we've got to get to construction. That's something I've been thinking about in terms of those funding strategies. Some of them might be also staffing strategies, but in general, some of that funding strategy, what are some of those funding strategy recommendations will be things like, do you want to go local funding, like for bike and ped projects? Sorry, for paint and post projects, yes. I think one thing we learned from CMAQ is we do not need to attach federal funding and all those strings attached to paint and post projects. We need to move. We don't need another 5-year, 8 miles of CMAQ bike lanes. Although there are a lot of different reasons that happened or why that took so long, but we just defederalized, for example, our neighborhood bike routes 2 project that Hannah's working on, so that we can move quickly on that one. So a lot of those we're going to try to advance with resurfacings at the low from Public Works or NCDOT resurfacings, for example, and then other funding strategies for those big, really expensive projects. We will have to go after federal funds, and I think Alta will help us figure out what federal funds may be available, and then what we have in terms, what we may be able to expect in terms of bond funding related to that. But for example, we have a shared use path project we're starting on Horton Road. That is going to be very expensive. We don't have any more like low-hanging easy projects like that, and there's going to be a lot of drainage issues to resolve around there. And so that has to require federal funding and city match. So that's an example of some of those more expensive type of sidewalk and shared use path projects where we're going after the federal funding, but also wondering how many projects can we fund at one time with city, state, or federal sources.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for that. Chris, I'm going to give you the last question, and then we are going to move on to business. So go ahead.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's actually a question, more of a comment, but on the funding side of it, we've chatted about this in the past, kind of briefly, of like there's capacity issues, and the city has really started using third-party services to do like right-of-way acquisition. I also kind of thought about like the rail trail design and the expense that went into that, and it seemed like it was a very nice design, but I kind of wondered, like, that same amount of money that we spent on that project, we probably could have gotten some in-house designers to do like the actual work we needed. So I just wonder how much give and take there is, and how much analysis there is in terms of like expanding our in-house capacity versus outsourcing, which, to my naive understanding of it always seems to be more expensive than just expanding our own internal capacity, especially with the large number of projects that we kind of need to do, and it doesn't seem like it's like slowing down. It's just there's always more stuff on the horizon. It's how much we can get done. So I think that's just a general concern I have as a taxpayer of like, are we doing the thing that makes the most sense for expanding our capacity and getting work done? Best value for dollar.
I'm probably not the most qualified person in this meeting to answer that question, but I can just tell you that it's short term, it's more expensive, but easier to do things with a consultant, and then maybe over time you justify a new full-time position that gets funded, but generally it's kind of hard to add new full-time positions. But if we really want to move more projects through at a time, that seems like something that might need to happen regardless of how much construction funding given. But in the short term, it's more expensive, but more expedient to use consultants. But as to what direction we're moving in, Carl or Heidi or Ellen are probably more informed than me on that in terms of what city or county priorities may be.
Okay. I think this will be a topic we revisit a few times in the coming year. Brian and Brooke, thank you both. We really appreciate your time in this update. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on, folks, to some old business. We're going to start with this one we've been tossing around for a few months. This is the draft letter on bikes on, I guess we're now calling them, what are we calling them now? Multi-use paths? No. Greenways, e-bikes on greenways. So I'm going to read this for the record, and then if we could get a motion to vote on it. We have discussed this at length in previous meetings, so we're not planning to discuss this tonight. This is addressed to City Council. Dear council members, at the request of Council Member Rist, the Durham Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission, BPAC, has assessed the city code's current regulations around the use of electric assisted bicycles and scooters on greenway trails and found the following. 1. The current code includes electric assisted bicycles in its definition of motorized vehicles, and thus includes electric assisted bicycles in the prohibition of motorized vehicles from greenway trails. Relevant sections of the code cited. This creates an undesirable situation which A, makes illegal a common practice, B, creates ambiguity around the rules governing greenway trails because this prohibition is not well known and not to our knowledge routinely enforced, and C, is not in alignment with our closest municipal neighbors, creating further confusion. There's a footnote to that saying, for example, both Raleigh and Chapel Hill, with references, include electric assisted bicycles in their legal definitions of bicycles. This is in alignment with the state of North Carolina's definition, and there's a citation of the relevant general statute. Back to the letter. In assessing this situation through the lens of BPAC's mission and values, we find that 1, the comparatively high speeds of which some electric assisted bicycles are capable, 20 miles per hour or more, may not be conducive to safely sharing the path with other users, cyclists, pedestrians, strollers, leashed pets, etc. This concern is particularly acute for users with limited mobility and or who make use of service animals. 2, encouraging and enabling the safe use of non-automobile transportation in Durham is in the interest of the city and its residents. 3, we do not wish to create a situation that increases the likelihood of residents having unwanted contact with law enforcement. We believe that the interests above can be balanced in an equitable manner, and that revision of the code provides a clear opportunity to simultaneously encourage the use of alternative transportation while enhancing safety on our shared use paths for all users. BPAC's recommendations are 1, revise the city code to explicitly allow the use of electric assisted bicycles on shared use paths and greenways in Durham unless otherwise posted by adding electric assisted bicycle to Durham's definition of bicycle, as Chapel Hill and Raleigh have already done, in alignment with the definition used by the state of North Carolina. 2, set a default speed limit for all modes of transportation on shared use paths of 15 miles per hour. 3, earmark funds to procure and install coincident with or in advance of changes to the city code taking effect, permanent signage, including but not limited to signage that A, clearly states the speed limit, B, clearly establishes yield priority, electric assisted bicycles, yielding to pedestrians, and C, reminds riders to slow down and audibly announce themselves when approaching other users of the trail. 4, earmark funds to study impacts of implementation on all modes of trail usage. 5, implement the above with a 2-year trial period or sunset provision pending review of the impact study. We thank you for your consideration and would be happy to discuss these proposed changes with you further. Sincerely, et cetera, et cetera.
This is Ed. I'll move that we approve the letter and present it to the city council for consideration.
Thank you, Ed.
I'm Nathan Lee, and I second.
I have a second. All in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
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 And any votes in opposition? Carl, are you raising your hand to vote or to comment?
I just had a quick comment when if there's a second on this.
Yeah, sure. I believe the motion carries. Carl, go ahead and comment.
Yeah, I just want to commend BPAC for this awesome resolution or letter. I mean, you know, I work with a lot of boards and commissions, and what we get from them is all over the place sometimes. This is a really professional, high quality letter that will be easy to take to the council to get the action we want. So I want to just commend you for that because it's really well done. I should also note that the mayor has become now an avid e-bike rider, so I think he'll be like, you know, easy to get on board with this thing. So well done, and I look forward to bringing it forward.
Thank you so much for that feedback, and glad to hear about the mayor. This is the work of many people, so my thanks to everybody that contributed to this, and for everybody's contributions, and for let's sticking with it and getting it over the line. I'll be very proud to send this off tomorrow, or maybe later this week. Thank you all very much. Let's move along. What do we have next? Oh yeah, upcoming speakers and topics. Okay, go back to my shared screen. Back to the agenda. Okay, hopefully everybody's seeing my agenda, our agenda again. Speakers. I had in my notes that are possibly incomplete that we maybe wanted to hear something about sidewalks next month. And I think that desire may have been tied to hopefully the bonds referendum passing, which it did. We also did just kind of hear about sidewalks tonight. So I'm wondering if maybe we ought to consider something else for next month. Unless I'm missing something from a previous discussion that somebody remembers better than me. So I'll pause for a second to see if anybody's got a comment on that. Don't see anybody jumping. So up here, we keep this running list going of potential topics. I did a refresh this month. The ones that I have in bold are kind of the ones I think are maybe the ones we have the most interest in, but that's kind of subjective on my part. Right now we have DDI update that got deferred because they had to cancel from a few months ago. I don't know if there's still interest in that. Sidewalk maintenance assessment from Public Works was one thing we had talked about. I know we had gotten some interest in, and I believe, Ed, you brought this up, Bike Durham's Week Without Driving training, maybe having them present that here. John has brought to us some information about smart bike racks, which I think is a good educational opportunity for some infrastructure we don't know about very well here. Christian Brookshire has offered to give us a presentation on safe routes to school. And I think, if not next month, but maybe in the next couple of months, we are probably due for an update from Lauren Grove about the 2025 Vision Zero action plan. So those are the ones I kind of identified as being things we might want to put in the queue sooner rather than later. Does anybody have any thoughts around that? And specifically thoughts for December, since that's one we need to book. And sorry if you could hear my dog squeaker in the background. He's playing pretty hard tonight. Carl, go ahead.
Yeah, so I like the idea of the Vision Zero action plan. And actually, I think it's not an update. I think it is the action plan that Lauren's been
Done.
working on. The only thing is I know that's due December. I haven't seen any kind of firm sort of indication that is going to be there in December. So unless we hear from Lauren, I might say like, let's push this to January, February. But I think it's going to will be a really hot topic once that thing is out. Once it's was off the presses or whatever. So I think it's something to keep in mind, but probably should check with Lauren first when that'll be done.
I definitely wouldn't volunteer for that without checking in with her. And yeah, I had it in my head it was due in December. So anybody else? So that might be a good one for January or February. Nathan, go ahead.
There's also the full like MPO comprehensive transportation plan update. Would that be a good idea? I don't know where they are in that process.
Who would we have speak to us about that?
We would have Brian knows. Brian Taylor knows.
I mean, it's probably somebody. That's a good question, Nathan. It's probably somebody from the MPO, maybe Doug or maybe one of his staff persons working on that. It's a good question. These plans are always in different stages of sort of being out for comment, approved. So let's check on when that MTP will be, or what state is going to be in, and maybe we want to do it whatever status it's in the near future. So let me check into that and get back to you and Brian.
Okay. Any other
people? Sorry, the project leads are Monet Moore and Julie Bogle.
Yeah, it's probably like Monet's pretty. Just being honest, just pretty new there. There's probably someone more senior than Monet, but yeah, we can find a good person from MPO to do that.
Okay.
I'd say I would plug the Bike Durham one, mostly because that's a training they have prepared.
Okay. Shovel ready?
Yeah.
I'll just chime in on that because I think that's what I brought up last time. I have not been able to connect with my contact at Bike Durham, Ashley Scott, and I have just not been able to get our schedules such so that we could actually go out and do kind of a trial run of what they're proposing as far as individualized travel training. But I think they have proceeded with classroom style or group travel training sessions, but they are working on launching an opportunity for individuals who want to learn routes and ways of getting around to kind of meet with somebody and work that kind of stuff out. So I'm excited about that, but it just hasn't happened yet.
Got it. Mary Rose, not to put you on the spot, do you know approximately how much time the classroom training as it is takes?
I don't know how much time it takes, but I'm pretty sure it's Jacopo who's doing it, so I can reach out to him to see how long it takes. And I imagine there's a condensed version that is like a PowerPoint presentation or something. Or one could be made.
Would you be willing to see if they're interested in doing it for the December meeting?
Yeah, sure.
Sometime this week?
Yep, I'll message them right now.
Okay, great. I like to pencil that one in. I agree. It's a good shovel ready, and Ed, maybe it can catalyze the discussion about the personal.
Yeah, I like that. I was thinking the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You know what? Let's go for that. And then maybe even pencil in January for Vision Zero action plan, obviously pending Lauren's agreement. I don't want to pile more under her plate if she's still actually working on it, but we can ask. And that's an email. I can take responsibility for that. So Mary Rose, you're gonna talk to Bike Durham. I know you are Bike Durham, but you know what I mean. And yes, I will email Lauren and ask her about her timeline. I think that's good. That gets us into next year. Any other thoughts real quick before we move on? Okay, great. Thanks, everybody. I will update that for the next agenda and we'll do those emails. Let's see. If I tab over to, do you see the CIP working document now, or are you guys still looking at the agenda? Okay, that worked. Okay, great. I actually don't want to spend too much time on this right now because we got it off to a really good start last month. Sorry, I should back up. This is our capital improvement plan working document, which is basically a jot list of ideas right now, which we started after last month's meeting, maybe even 2 months ago, because we wanted to get ahead of this process so we would have projects prioritized and ready to communicate probably January next year. P&P did a really good discussion on this last month and added to it, and I think had a really good discussion. I mostly just want to remind everybody that this exists as a document you can go in and look at. And let me just drop the direct link in the chat. I emailed it to you earlier this week as well. And what I'm going to ask actually, committee chairs, this month, could you devote 5 to 10 minutes of your committee meeting to taking a look at this with your committees? And if you can reach a consensus, pick your top 2 or 3 priorities. And it's okay if you want to edit them a little or whatever, if you want to be more general, but your top 2 or 3 priorities that you as a committee would like to see on our commission level requests, and do that this month, and then bring that to the next monthly meeting, and then we can dive back into this and see where we're at with our priority list. Does that sound okay, Nathan, Scott, and Hannah?
Yep, good for me.
Great.
Yep.
Brian, can you toss one thing out just on that, because if I don't say it now, I won't remember, but it's because this just came to me in relation to the letter that we just approved on the e-bikes. One possibility I thought is maybe getting some funding from the CIP process for the signage and the that aspect of that will become a project that we're making a recommendation for in that letter.
That's easy. I just typed it in. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Anything else? Maggie, go ahead.
I was speaking with Harrison Gilbert. He's on DOST. And he did have a question about the CIP and if we were planning on doing a Roxborough Rail Trail funding request. I saw that was on the list, but they are planning to do one. So if we do want to move forward with that, they want to kind of coordinate a request with DOST.
Yes, I've also been talking with Dave Connolly on DOST, and what we'd like to do is coordinate the requests from both of our commissions.
I think that's a great idea, and I have noted it, and not to get ahead of ourselves, but I feel like this one will be a slam dunk on our priority list. We'll talk about it some more, but I feel pretty confident about that. So thank you thank you, Tony, for emailing about that earlier this week. Nathan, go ahead, please.
Speaking of DOS, do you guys have Parks and Recs pre-CIP list? Or know who I could email to get it? Anybody? All right. I will track that down.
Okay. Yeah. Great. Okay. Cool. I think we'll leave CIP for now. I'm glad that we're talking about it every month. Quiet. Sorry, I've got an ornery dog here. Okay. Let's see. Back to the agenda. New business. New business. Hannah Salvaggio, you are up for the first 2 items of new business. The first being the date for the 2025 retreat.
Hi, yes. So I realized that this is kind of related to the third bullet we're going to be discussing, which is the in-person meetings for 2025. So I'm going to start with the holiday parade piece. So I sent out an email to everyone on the commission. Bike Durham invited BPAC to participate in the holiday parade with them Typically, it's a big group bike ride. And so, yeah, kind of just wanted to put that plug there. And in the past, BPAC has always participated and has, gotten pictures, and it's been a pretty fun event. So, if anyone is interested, circle back on that email, or I don't know if I sent it to everyone. I know I shared it with you, Brian. I think I sent it to everyone though, but if any, I did. Okay. Great. Well, then, yeah, if anyone is interested, I think, yeah, coordinating on that piece would be really good.
Sorry if you said it already, but what's the date for the holiday parade?
I think it's the 13th.
14th.
December 14th. Yeah, this Saturday, December 14th. And it's, I believe, the morning afternoon time.
Starts at 9:30.
I think goes to like 12, something like that. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if anybody else has any thoughts. I love the idea of participating with Bike Durham because all that requires is for those of us who are interested to show up.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. And I guess the main thing would be whoever is a part of BPAC to take some type of selfie or picture together, so we can use it for the annual report.
Yeah, that'd be great. Maybe just a quick show of hands, people who are potentially interested. You're not going to be held to it. Awesome. Actually, that looks like you'd have very good participation. So let's say yes to Bike Durham.
So I would bring my bike too.
Mm-hmm.
I think that'd be welcome.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and possibly even encouraged.
If it helps,
Yeah.
I can send you the Bike Durham invite. That's like, I think anybody can join it. It's just like the link.
Yeah, if you could do that, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
I'll see if I can post that in chat while we.
It'll still be like a parade pace. So if you don't have a bike and you want to walk just with Bike Durham, that's also acceptable.
Great.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll probably walk.
Awesome.
Great.
Okay, so that was that piece. And then the other thing, thinking ahead for 2025, I guess to kind of kick it off, the annual retreat is typically in January. Last year, I think we did the beginning of February just because we were a bit rushed with everything. But I guess, yeah, Brian, when we start the next bullet about talking about the in-person meetings, I think it's important for us to kind of either nail down now, probably not now though, we probably don't have time. I think last year sent out like a Google doc to try to get people's availability and stuff. But yeah, we need to just schedule that so we have it on the calendar for January.
I think we're in broad agreement. It ought to be a Saturday.
I think last year there were Saturday and Sunday options thrown around. And then also it could be like fully online, it could be half online. Location can go be wherever, can do a walk audit, bike audit, a lot of different things that could be done, but you just have to do one. So
okay. I can put together a poll kind of like I did for the other thing and circulate that for probably not the first week of January, maybe not the first 2 weekends of January, but maybe following from there and maybe one into February and see where we're at. If we get to a consensus pretty quickly.
And then the third week in January, Brian, is
sorry?
Martin Luther King Day weekend.
Yeah. Yep. Thanks. I think we'll still include it as an option, but understand people might be otherwise occupied. But let's take the poll and see where everybody lands. Okay, I think that will be easier than trying to do it here, even though everybody's here.
agreed. Yeah, and maybe next month we can kind of just confirm and make sure that that's the date and everyone can make it. Okay.
Yeah, that works for me. And actually, that's a good segue into the next item, which is talking about in-person meetings for 2025. Which we also used a poll for, and thank you to everybody who participated in that. Let me see if I can get this shared properly. Okay, and let's see if I can. Everybody seeing me in full screen mode now? And not everybody's faces superimposed on it like I am? Okay, great. Okay, good. I do remember how to do this. So thank you to everybody who participated in this survey. I think we got a really good response rate. I will put a disclaimer. This is the responses as of, I think, last Wednesday, which is the last day I had significant time to work on this. So if you responded in the last couple of days, I apologize. Your response is not captured here. But I think as of last Wednesday, we had, I want to say 14 responses. So that's really good. So thank you to everybody who took the time to do that. I'm just going to run through this really quick as a matter of summary. We asked a couple of questions. The first one was, in general, how do you feel about in-person meetings that BPAC held in 2024? Overwhelming majority said they thought they were better. Well, I think one person said they were indifferent, and a few of you said, I'm new, don't really know, but thank you for answering. So importantly, nobody said they thought they were worse. When we asked possibly the more important and pointed question, which is, are in-person meetings an impediment to your participation? We only had one person who said yes, one who said they weren't sure, everybody else said no. Trying to drill into reasoning a little bit, this was interesting, and I will admit to a poorly worded survey question, but you guys worked around it anyway, which was, even though only one of you answered yes, quite a bit more of you answered this question. So thank you for doing that, actually, but it's better information. All of these potential concerns around problems with in-person meetings, accessibility, transportation logistics, concern about accessibility for other members, or scheduling or specific need to be home in the evenings. Actually, all of them came up at least once. The ones that came up more than once were actually the one that came up most was you guys were concerned about each other. Good for you. This is a good group. And then the next biggest one was scheduling, which I think is probably no surprise. I certainly know it's easier for me to make a meeting. I don't necessarily have to be at a particular place for it sometimes, tonight being a prime example of that. I'll also point out, I got one really good comment on this, which was I checked some of the yes items because I believe it is important to take these matters into consideration when planning in-person meetings, which I agree with. So whether it's personally a concern for us as individuals, I think thinking of it as a concern for the group is still a good thing to do. Cutting right to it. Overall, what is your preferred schedule for in-person BPAC meetings in 2025? Again, technically a poorly worded question, but we'll work with it. I will point out, nobody said we should have no in-person meetings. Everybody wanted at least as many as we had last year and possibly more. And a few of you even expressed an interest in having only in-person meetings this year. So I think there's a pretty clear consensus in favor of having at least as many in-person meetings as we've had this year and potentially a few more. So I do want to highlight some of the great comments that were left here. I've kind of put them into a couple of different buckets, sort of general comments. These are pretty representative. I'm sensitive to different needs and priorities of others. Not super strong because of that. I just like seeing everybody in person. The energy that's possible from an in-person meeting allows BPAC to become more of an advocacy group in addition to being an advisory group. I think that's a great point. This was an interesting one I hadn't thought about, but I think there's some merit to it, which is we're more effective on Zoom after we've been meeting with each other in person regularly. I think we just kind of know how to bounce off each other a little better, having been in the same room a few times. And I think that's true. We also had a few comments around venue in particular. One being the meeting at the can opener was big and a big positive. Don't mind being at City Hall, but more meetings based in community locations other than City Hall being favored. Another person made similar points. The City Hall meetings were good logistically, but we really didn't have much public turnout to those. And there's been some discussion that City Hall as a venue is not necessarily the most welcoming place to members of the public. However, the one at the can opener had great turnout. Logistics maybe weren't as smooth as we could be. I think this comment went on to say, but hey, maybe we can learn from that and do better. So, one more comment about being hesitant to add more in-person meetings during the darker months. So synthesizing all of that, this is what I would like to propose, which is a schedule that I guess we could call it a seasonal schedule, which would be in-person meetings April through September, taking our usual hiatus in July, and then possibly reserving 2 meetings. And I've kind of arbitrarily picked June and September for these, mostly to give us a little more runway to plan, at a non-city hall site, can opener or other site TBD. And really the goal with that is to get out in the community, increase community engagement. We had a really specifically community targeted presentation at the September meeting. I think we could do that. We could also just have a plain old meeting, just have it in a place that's more accessible. I think those are all great ideas. But I think if by going in person during the long days, I think that maybe deals with some of the transportation and safety logistics around that and participation. And then keeping Zoom, I think even regardless of the specific schedule, I think keeping the Zoom infrastructure in place as an option is probably still a good idea. You never know when you're going to need it. And yeah, I think this falls well within the fat part of the curve of most survey responses. So you've had a minute to look at it. I think I've said enough. Does anybody want to offer comments on this schedule? Chris, go ahead.
I love it. Just quick question because I'm a newer member. When we do in-person meetings, is there kind of an option to do it kind of hybrid where like if somebody can't show up in person because of some other personal conflict but can get online onto a Zoom call, can we have like somebody who needs to participate virtually even in an in-person meeting? Not so much for myself, more for like others, but I think like I'm kind of curious if that's something that we can manage and accommodate moving forward.
Hannah Salvaggio, do you want to comment on logistics of hybrid meetings at City Hall?
Yeah, I think it'll be a learning curve for sure. If it was at City Hall, I think it would be a little bit easier. But I don't think it would, I don't know. I think we would need to figure it out in advance of the meeting. Right now, I would say I wouldn't feel comfortable advertising that that's an option. But if we're able to, test it and really figure it out, then maybe in the future. If it's somewhere like the can opener, I would definitely say no, because we just wouldn't have the technology for it. But yeah, I don't think it's a hard no for it in the future, but if you're able to help, maybe.
Jeff, go ahead.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that the city does like council meetings and other ones that are hybrid. I would think that a call to like someone in the AV department at City Hall might be able to help us figure out how to set it up.
Well, and just to clarify maybe Hannah's comments, because I know we've met in that committee room on the second floor. I mean, that's pretty, like we've done that before. That's a pretty fairly simple hybrid option, right? I know Hannah ran those.
I mean, I'm gonna call. I think it's been done before, and it might just be getting in touch with the right AV tech at City Hall, and they'll be like, yeah, just do this, this, and this. And
yeah,
this is, I have a vague recollection of this having come up before, maybe when Dale was around, and the response to it was that something maybe about the bylaws or something said you can't have a hybrid meeting for a commission meeting.
And by that, you mean like members can't opt to participate remotely, right?
It's something like that in my memory. Yeah, this isn't the first time we've discussed hybrid meetings, and it was, prohibited essentially was what I'm recalling. Whether I'm right or wrong about that, I don't know, but that's my recollection.
Yeah. So we might need to take a action to clarify that if there's strong interest there, whether that's an option or not. Any other thoughts or comments?
I like it. I like
I
having in-person meetings, especially in the long daytime months as somebody without a car who has to bike there.
Yep.
Yeah, I was the one who commented about not having meetings in the dark months. So
Mhm.
I very much appreciate the summer schedule.
Okay, cool. I see some other thumbs up. I think, I don't know if we have to vote on this or just agree by consensus, but we could certainly take a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second
I'll
that.
Oh, thank you, Jeff and Mary Rose, and Chris. You can write yourself in as having thirded it. All in favor, raise your hand or say aye, please.
Aye.
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 And any votes in opposition? Okay, motion carries. The schedule you see on your screen is approved. I hope I got all the dates right. I'm pretty sure I did. Thank you very much. We can start planning those TBDs and any AV logistics we need to figure out. Thank you all. Okay, let me get out of this slideshow here. What is next? Okay. Conversion of the city youth representative position, right? So Hannah alluded to this at the beginning of the meeting. We've had one perennially empty seat. We've, I think, briefly filled it a few times in the last couple of years. Usually that is measured in weeks, the tenure of that position. This is a position, I think, dedicated for someone, I forget the age range, but I think it tops out at like 24 or 25.
You got it. It's like 15 to 24, yeah.
15 to 24. I can tell you how reliable I was when I was in that age range. Nothing against the youth of Durham, but we've had a very hard time filling this position and keeping it filled. One option we have that we could exercise is to simply convert that position to an at-large. This is a city position, right? Yeah. So this would be a fourth at-large city seat now on the commission. Which would, I know we've had more applicants than seats lately, which is a good problem to have. So this would certainly give an opportunity for someone who would otherwise maybe not have to wait for something else to come up to join us sooner. Chris, you have a comment. Go ahead.
I just wanted to throw out, I actually think that's a good idea to change it, but maybe not entirely at large. I'm just going to throw out a like wild card reason why. My position is transportation planning policy planning, something like that. And I don't really have any experience with this. I'm not somebody who worked for like Go Durham, Go Triangle, anything like that. I'm just a citizen, and I'm very interested in transit, and I try to keep that in mind when I'm participating. I think one of the things we could do is make this a position where it's like anybody can apply to it, but you're kind of tasked with potentially like thinking about the impacts of folks in that younger age range. I sometimes myself think about the situations where there's like a Go Durham bus that stops just shy of a school, or there's no sidewalk connecting a school that's right there to a Go Durham bus, and how that could be an option for students. Same thing with college age kids. So I think maybe having this position be open to a representative who's any age range, but is kind of maybe encouraged to focus on those things as part of their work on BPAC could be useful. So that's my thought.
That's a good point. I do believe we have a county seat that's called youth advocacy. And Hannah, is that you?
Yep, that is me.
Okay.
Love those ideas. Can think about how to more explicitly bring in the youth perspective.
I mean, having someone represent that constituency for the county doesn't preclude us from having someone who represents it for the city, but we do kind of have that, I think. It did occur to me that we could potentially repurpose this to some specific constituency, and that might be something that came up. Carl, go ahead.
Well,
So I was just gonna say, and Hannah,
There's a
please jump in
couple
too. I
things.
was gonna say, like, so where we are in terms of status at the moment. So
Yeah.
we're currently voting on, there's a seat open, as I think we
Mhm.
said earlier, for a youth member. It is like 15 to 24. We have one person who's applied. And so
Okay.
the votes by the council are already going in. So I think
Okay.
we probably, like for now, I think we probably, my guess is this person will be voted in because it's the one person. So we may want to
But
hold this thing. Right. The one the one sort of caveat maybe Hannah's gonna get that is like this person is 13 years old, middle
yeah,
school student. I will say like her application was super eager, and I think if there's any 13-year-old that sort of finds their way to the city website and applies to be on BPAC, I'm like, bring it on, you know. So I think it's pretty, just the fact that she applied, I think is pretty impressive, but it is nominally like outside the age range.
Go ahead, Hannah.
yeah, I was just gonna say, I wasn't sure if that's possible since it is outside of that 15 to 24, and typically, at least on the higher end, we're not accepting people who are, 25. So it seems like, Carl, you're sounding a little more lenient with it. Do you think that's something that need to check in with the city clerk's office, or because they passed it through, it should be fine?
That's the thing is yeah, like I think all these votes are sort of, I mean, I think all these positions are, it's not like they're all guidelines, right? So,
Mhm.
In the
um,
bylaws.
what's that?
I think they're defined in the bylaws.
They are.
They are defined in bylaws, but in terms of the actual like qualifications, I mean, I think that's sort of, I think it's yeah, it's a good question. I think it's the intent for that, but I think there's kind of broad latitude in terms of who actually gets elected. Like when when you're voting, yeah, you have broad latitude.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I would suggest that
Okay.
let's see how the vote goes. If the rest of the
Yeah.
council says like, yeah, no, person doesn't meet the age qualifications, we want to throw it back. I think would be a good chance maybe for us to rethink it. I would say if she gets
Okay.
voted in, I think we accept her now and then for this candidate and then maybe go
Circle
from there.
around again. Okay. Sounds good.
You
I
okay
think
with
if
that,
I
Brian?
could provide my 2 cents as the county youth rep,
Go for it.
and yes, I am technically the county youth rep. I I think with this position, it would very much have to be all or nothing.
Yeah.
And when I say all or nothing, nothing being it's converted to an at-large position. It's like there's no designation for youth or youth advocacy, other than the existing seat. Or you go all into the youth seat in that it's designated 13 to 17. It's heavily advertised in middle and high schools in the area. I don't think a youth position that allows up to age 24 makes a lot of sense in that, like, I fit in that age range and I grew up with dial-up internet. So for what it's worth, like it's a little much. It really stretches the definition. But I think this is a really good opportunity for middle and high schoolers to get engaged in ways that, on average, this is an assumption, you wouldn't see the same kind of engagement from college and young professional age folks. And we know that because we haven't gotten that engagement, whether it may be due to we just haven't been advertising this position properly, or we've gotten several folks to sign up, but they haven't followed through, or whatever it may be. But yeah, I think either converting them to at-large positions or revising the age range, and I don't know what that means for my position as county youth rep, because I'm not 16 years old, converting that or amending that age range to be more reflective of actual youth and not some youth and young professionals and college students, who I also would argue are not entirely youth.
All right. thank you for that perspective, and I do kind of see where you're coming from there. Landon, go ahead.
I totally agree with that characterization of changing if there is a change to the bylaws that, eventually does get voted on, I'd advocate for, if there is a retention of this seat as a youth representative, something from that 13 to 18-year-old age range, I think would be a welcome perspective. And I agree with advertising it in schools and all other stuff. I'd be very interested to have city council vote on a 13-year-old, specifically for the purpose of these people cannot drive, and the bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure that exists in this city is their only real meaningful way of getting around, unless they have the privilege of having a parent with a vehicle and having the luxury of that parent having the time off of work to be their personal chauffeur. So, if that is the case, and I'm sure there are parents on here who can empathize with, I wish that my kid could get around without me having to be a personal chauffeur. But yeah, I think that perspective might be welcome, especially when we're considering things like the Engage Durham and encouraging projects to move along, which has been a topic of conversation, because if that's your only way of getting around, you don't have the luxury of being able to wait decades for projects to get done.
Yeah.
Done and redone and re-engaged and other things, because you're going to miss out on your window of being able to utilize the pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure to actually get around and live your life. So that would be my only comment.
Yeah, and to add to that, Landon, so this candidate does go to Lakewood Montessori Middle. So, depending where she is, there certainly are ways to bike safely, probably. So yeah. Yeah, right. Maybe. All the more reason why, yeah, that would be a reason to bring her on. Yeah.
Yeah, I do appreciate that point. Something I've been thinking about a little more broadly, but this is a great example of it, is how to get better representation on this commission from people who, for whatever reasons, are using bicycles as a matter of necessity and not as a matter of choice. And it's a great example of and I hadn't even thought of the age angle. So thank you for bringing that up. Mary Rose did bring up a very good point in the chat about the UN definition of youth is 15 to 24, which is the basis for this and other Durham projects. I don't think we're necessarily bound by that, but it didn't just get plucked out of the air. So thank you for bringing that up. Here's what I would suggest we do. It sounds like the council's got to take a vote and make a decision about the candidate. We certainly shouldn't get in the way of that, or try to. So let's see where that lands. Table this conversation. If they end up not getting a candidate, whether this one or somebody else, let's come to the next meeting with suggestions like what we've just heard, or any other suggestions of what to do with the seat. I'm open to other ideas, but I think we've heard some good ones. Chris, go ahead, please.
I just wanted to throw out, is there any need for us to maybe vote on saying that it's okay for a 13-year-old to fill that position as part of is that a requirement in the bylaws? Is that something that we need to unblock at all? Do we have any responsibility for that?
I don't think we even have the ability to change the bylaws unilaterally. I think our vote would be a request for someone who can to do so. Anybody want to correct me on that?
I think what in the past, what we did was as a commission, we went through the bylaws and restructured the whole membership categorization, and voted on a revised draft of the bylaws. So I think it was incumbent upon us as a commission.
So we did have to do that. Okay. Okay, thanks for that perspective. So I think but Chris, you were asking whether we need to sign off on council appointing somebody who's technically outside of the bounds defined by the bylaws. Is that your question?
Yeah, more or less. I just, it's I'm not sure what the deal is if it's posted it's 15 to I have no objection to it. It's just a question of do we need to do anything today to facilitate that? if that moves ahead, and what is that process?
I don't know. Does
I
anybody know?
don't think so. I think right now it's just we need to wait to see what city council says. If they say yes, then it's yes. And if they say no, then it's no. And if we have major issues with it, then we can kind of bring it up then. But yeah, it's kind of in their court right now. So
And I think Hannah's right. So like obviously these all go through the clerks. If the clerks are like brought it forward on some level, the clerk's saying like it's okay to vote on this candidate.
Okay. To me, that sounds like we don't need to sign off. Good stuff in the chat. I'm not gonna get into it, but thank you for the comments. I think we should move on, and we will table this till we know more and possibly talk about it next month. Great.
did you add time to the
Not yet,
okay.
but I will note we are now at least 20 minutes behind.
I moved to add 20 minutes.
Thank you, Mary Rose.
Second.
I saw from Landon and heard from Nathan at about the same time, a second. All in favor of adding 20 minutes to our time?
Aye.
Aye.
Any in opposition? Okay, we have till 9:20 now. Let's try and land this thing. Okay, next item of business. Leadership nominations and elections for 2025. We will open the floor to nominations momentarily, but I am going to take my chair's prerogative and make the first one. I would like to nominate somebody who has been involved with us since even before they joined the commission, and I think would do an excellent job in this role, active on a number of fronts. I would like to nominate for the position of chair BPAC in 2025, Mary Rose Fontana.
I'll second.
Is that Trent?
Yeah, that's me.
Thank you, Trent, for the second. So Mary Rose is now in nomination, and the floor is open for any other nominations if anyone wishes to make one.
I'll make a motion to for Mary Rose as well.
Okay, thank you, Trevay. I think that's a motion to vote on this then. I want to just go going on. Any other nominations? Can I get a second to Trevay's motion then?
Second.
Seconded by Tony Reevy. All in favor of Mary Rose Fontana as 2025 BPAC Commission Chair, please say aye, raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Any in opposition? Congratulations, Mary Rose. Do you want to say anything?
I'm excited and also scared, but thank you.
That is an appropriate response. I think you're going to do a great job. I will also take my prerogative right now to enter into nomination for the position of vice chair. Somebody who's just joined the commission, but has already jumped right in to committee work and shown a great deal of interest. So I am pleased to nominate for the position of vice chair for 2025, Trent Cormier. Can I get a second? I see Landon seconding. The floor is open to nominations if anybody else would like to make any additional ones. Smooth sailing.
Hey, I submit a second that motion.
Okay. Trevay, I believe, is moving to approve. Can I get a second to that? Landon and John seconding. All in favor of Trent to be our vice chair for 2025, please raise your hand or say aye.
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 Any in opposition? Motion carries. Congratulations, Trent. Would you like to say anything?
I'll just echo Mary Rose's sentiment. So.
I want to thank you both. I did, of course, speak to both of them ahead of time and twisted their arms, begged, pleaded, and no, I didn't really have to do that much begging and pleading. Everybody's, I think, very excited. I think you're going to do a great job, and I will just say, for my own part, I really do appreciate you being willing to step up And I will help you every way I can in smoothing transition and as you pick this up going forward. So thank you for your willingness to serve. That was easy, and boy, I feel better. Chris, go ahead.
Just a quick question, as I am the secretary, does that just carry over into next year? Is that something that has to get refreshed or anything? This is my first time doing it, so.
Believe we have to vote on secretary, do we? I feel like we didn't last year.
I don't remember getting voted on, but I don't know. It was kind of a whirlwind of like, that was the second meeting, I think, that I got that, so.
No, I think because you're already it. I don't think any voting or anything really needs to change. If you're okay with staying as a secretary.
Which I greatly
Okay.
appreciate, by the
Great.
way.
I'm like, that's one of the most important roles.
It is a very, very important role. Carl, go ahead, please.
So when do the new officers take their seats? Is it in January?
January.
And we don't have a meeting in December, do we?
No, we have a meeting in December.
Okay. So we get to like toast you in December, right, Brian?
Sure. And yeah, please don't do it right now. But thank you. Okay.
Are you terming off the commission or just as chair?
I will potentially term off the commission later in 2025, but I intend to stay on the commission for a little bit longer.
Great.
Yeah, but yes, I am definitely terming off as chair. So, okay. Thank you all very much for that. And I believe we have one more item of new business, which Hannah, you have brought to us.
Yes. So first off, big thank you to everyone who responded to that Google Doc and put thoughts in there. Just as a recap for maybe folks who didn't see the email or didn't have a chance to connect, the Community Engagement Committee met last week, and one of the things coming out of our meeting is that we wanted to submit a proposal for Duke Sanford Schools Spring Consulting Project, where a team of MPPs work on a policy question throughout the spring semester and produce a final deliverable that helps answer that question. Had two potential questions and an open call for additional questions in that doc. And it seems like there is a pretty clear consensus around the first policy question, which looks at city versus state control of roads. There's some really good feedback in there that I think can help support sub-questions that we can have that team potentially look at. But if folks feel good with that, I'm happy to submit a proposal to that program with that option A, city versus state control of roads, major core question. The team, if we're selected, I'm happy to be the main liaison, can meet with them, help refine the policy question. And by April 2025, we'll have a report outlining answers to it. And it is totally free. So we get some free grad student labor. But just wanted to bring it to the full group unless anyone had really strong opinions against that option A or any other thoughts that they wanted to add.
Anybody have any thoughts or questions on that?
We can awesome. For one.
I looked at it really quick, and I think it's a really well thought out topic, and obviously it's important to us. I interrupted somebody. I'm sorry. Who wanted to talk?
Sorry, I was just confirming that we can only vote for one option.
Yeah, we can only submit one, sadly.
Okay. Cool. Do you need, other than just general input, do you need anything from us in terms of resources or anything to support this?
No, I don't think any resources for now. They'll do the selection of which proposals get accepted in December. If we are selected, may send out some feelers on just recommendations for connections that the team would want, that policy student team would want to connect with for interviews. But yeah, I'm good to move forward with submitting it if folks are all good with that.
Great. I think you go with our blessings and our enthusiastic support.
Love it. Thanks so much.
Thank you for taking leadership on this. Cool. I think we're good then. Any other comments or questions that I missed? If not, I think we get to move on to reports. Yeah, we do. And we are 27. Okay, yeah. Let's go. Liaisons. We start with Heidi Carter.
Yeah, gosh, usually I say I don't have anything to report, but I was intending to share briefly with you all a presentation, not the whole presentation, of course, but I was going to report out on something that the commissioners voted on this month. As you know, Durham County has a 0.5-cent sales tax for transit, and we have the whole Durham County Transit Plan. And within that plan is the annual work program. And every quarter, there's an opportunity to make amendments to the budget, which is basically what the work program is. It's the budget that funds the programs, the transit programs that are being worked on this year. And so I just wanted to let you know that we did vote to approve these proposed amendments. And the overall impact to the work program budget is about $3.9 million. And most of that is going to cover increased costs for the upgrade and improvement of the Durham station. This was a $13 million project when the city secured the federal award, and that would mostly cover it, but now the cost is doubled. And so the Durham County Transit Plan is paying for $13.5 million of a $26 million project now. But that will begin, I think construction starts in 2025. It'll be completed in 2026. And also there has been a shift in the work that's being done to analyze bus rapid transit and what routes, corridors, roads, where it makes sense for Durham to potentially invest in bus rapid transit technologies and infrastructure. And that project is being shifted from the MPO to the Durham County Transportation Department. I'm really sorry, Ellen and Brooke had to log off because they are doing such great work. When I started as a county commissioner, we did not even have a transportation department because it has always been the city responsibility, even though oddly, it's the county that levies the sales tax and approves the transit plan. So anyway, it's really great that we have Ellen and her staff working with the county on the implementation of the transit plan. I just encourage you all to try to keep up with that, keep it on your list of things to get reported out on. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I can put a link to the amendments. I'll just put a link to the actual presentation that Ellen and her team made at our work session if you would like more details. And then one other thing I wanted to report out is this is my final meeting with you all. I will be bidding you farewell at the end of this meeting. The new Board of County Commissioners is being sworn in on December 2nd. I did not seek re-election. I'm retiring after 20 years, 12 on the school board, 8 as a county commissioner. And I just have been so privileged to be the liaison to this board and wanted to let you know that. I admire the work you all do so much. I know how hard you work on your committees, and I just know how dedicated you are to advocating for pedestrian bike infrastructure. And I'm going to be a citizen that is going to be very grateful for the work that you're doing. And you've really done a great job advising the city and the county over the past 8 years that I've been the liaison. And I wanted to thank you all so much.
I want to give everybody a minute to have that round of applause. Thank you so much, Heidi. Thank you for your time you spent with us and for also all your service to the community. I really appreciate it. And I think I speak for all of us when I say that. So thank you very much. Carl, you've got to follow that.
Yeah, no, like I've been following Heidi for 20 years or more. So like I've been looking up to you all that time, Heidi. That's an amazing legacy of service. Can't thank you enough for all your leadership and also friendship for all those years. So yeah, I'm so proud of you and wish you the best in your next phase. Sure, Scott's going to enjoy this as well.
Thank you, Carl. Thanks.
Sure. So just a couple things. First of all, I did want to I was going to talk about because of the Durham Station Transit Center. We just actually approved that last night, the sort of like the contract. So thank you so much to the county because there was, as you said, a big increase in cost there. So thank you so much for funding that increase out of the transit plan. So that's a great step forward. And I think the transit center is 20 years old, right? So or more. So it's time for a refresh there. The second thing is we didn't say much about this, but yay, the bonds passed, right? So I'm so excited that our bonds passed, including 85 for parks, but also the 115 for streets and sidewalks, and bikeways. You know, I said, like, that's awesome stuff. And I think we thought it was going to pass. So I think I'm excited, but we were expecting that. I think now the hard work starts, right? And as any of you have seen from presentations that the city did, leading up to the bonds and advocating for the bonds, and just to remember, so it's like 60 million for new sidewalks and another 50 million for sidewalk repair. So a lot of money for sidewalks and paths in the budget or in the bond. And so, you know, the staff has said this is going to happen in the next 2 years. We're going to produce these sidewalks. Pretty sure I recall. And so the work starts now. And I guess what I would say is, I think in the best sense, you all ought to keep us accountable on the city side for delivering as we promised. And I will mention, you know, I know a lot of folks have been processing the results of the election last week. I will mention one article, maybe folks have seen this, by Nicholas Kristof in the New York Times, did a neat op-ed where he mentioned like his 15 sort of pledges, because, you know, he said like things are changing, but I want to pledge 15 things in this new environment to sort of keep moving forward and not sort of get lost in despair or whatever. And one of those was number 11, I will push for blue places to govern themselves better. And so I think, again, there's a lot we can't control in this new environment. But one thing we can control is that we deliver city and county government as best and efficient as we possibly can. And so y'all need to hold ourselves accountable. I'm going to hold staff accountable. We're going to do the best we can to deliver all we promised on those sidewalks and bike paths in the next couple of years. So let's keep our eye on this thing. I'm sure there'll be more to talk about soon, but I'm hoping that we can deliver all that in a couple of years and really improve this infrastructure that we've talked about so much that is just incomplete and crappy in some ways. So let's move forward on that. The second thing I wanted to say, a little bit of a downer, but I do want to mention that we were just looking at some of the data yesterday at the city council. So there have been a total of 32 homicides in Durham this year. There have also been 25 fatal crashes this year, 25. So in some way, and all those 32 homicides, I must say, are all tragic. I don't mean in any way to sort of compare fatal crashes with cars and homicides, all awful. But it's worth noting that the magnitude is about the same of fatal crashes and homicides. Of those 25 fatal crashes, 10 were pedestrians, and the 10th was just, I think, a couple weeks ago on Holloway Street. So we've lost 10 pedestrians this year. I'm sure this is tracked somewhere. I'm sure Lauren, who's our Vision Zero coordinator, is tracking this. I just talked to her yesterday and mentioned that we do need to have like a dashboard where we track this stuff on an annual basis. We've pledged by, I forget what year it is, to sort of get to 0 fatalities on our roadways, right? But it's not going to happen all at once. And so I think tracking how we do every year to year is going to be really important, because 10 people is 10 too many. And so again, I look forward to working with all of you and my city colleagues on reducing those fatalities. It's tragic. The last thing I'll say is a bit of qualified, but potentially really good news. And that is, let me pull this thing up. We did get, the city got a letter just yesterday from DOT. If I can find it. Regarding the two-way conversion of Roxborough and Mangum. Find it. Oh, wait, it's here. Okay, and I'll just read you the relevant part. So basically it says, basically what the state is saying is like NCDOT is not opposed to the concept of two-way conversion, but concerns remain with operational issues. NCDOT does not object to the city proceeding with preliminary engineering of the conversion, provided it will assist in addressing the outstanding issues stated above. So they didn't say no. It's not an unqualified yes, but they're saying we can move forward. And so this gives the folks in transportation the confidence that they can at least move forward with this with the design phase, which is really good news. As the manager said to me today, like, this is sort of the game they play, though, DOT. As long as we're spending money, they don't care that much, right? The devil's in the details once we spend that money and get to the actual execution. So we're going to move forward with design. So be ready for that process. But it's still, there's another year past that where we actually would do the actual conversion of intersections and streetlights and all that kind of stuff. So we're moving forward, which is good. But so I'm cautiously optimistic, but we'll have to keep watching this. And again, keep us accountable, and we'll keep holding the state DOT accountable. So that's it. And I think Lena had a question about what the issues are for the state. If I can answer that just real quickly, I think this is, and I'm new at this game, so but what I've heard from the manager and other folks is that this is often the way DOT does it. They'll say like, hey, go ahead, we just have some questions. And so they've been saying up till now, like, hey, we have more questions, even though the city has kind of given them all the sort of like analysis they need. And so I think they can always say like, I'm not sure, need more data kind of thing. And I think that's a little bit of the game that they tend to play. So we're aware of that and concerned about that. At the same time, we do have the authorization now to move forward, which we'll do. And so we've got to manage this thing very closely, day to day, week to week.
Thank you for all those updates.
Yeah.
Glad to hear some motion.
It's definitely it is slow, but it's movement.
However qualified it may be. Ed, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I just kind of a question that maybe Heidi or Carl or maybe whoever the county liaison next month. I don't want to like get into this now, but I love that the transit center downtown is getting remodeled in a big way. That's really important. But I can't help but be curious with the cost overrun. Does the adding $13.5 million from the transit funding, where did that come from? Are other projects within the transit plan being impacted by that reallocation of money? And maybe that's something that can be addressed next month.
Okay.
Well, just quickly, this time I think that money is coming from reserves.
Okay.
But yes, that is always a possibility and something to be aware of is, are we rearranging priorities?
I'm always concerned about my lovely paratransit.
Yep.
Exactly. And that's still in there.
Yep.
Thank you. Before I move on to the next round of reports, could I maybe get a motion for 10 more minutes that I hope we don't need all of?
A motion to add 10 minutes to the meeting time.
Second.
Nathan, seconded by Mary Rose, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. We got till 9:30. Let's try not to use it all. Duke University, Nathan.
Yeah, there is now an alternative transportation committee under the Duke Climate Commitment Operations thing. Duke does seem to be getting more and more serious about actually achieving neutral carbon emissions. They currently have achieved it. I put that in quotes because they've done that through buying a lot of carbon offsets, which have problems. But they say that they've been really careful about it. But anyway, there's more momentum into making Duke less car dependent and making it friendlier and better for pedestrians. There's a new plan from Alta, and there seems to be some actual momentum behind it. And there are no plans to add any more parking lots anywhere. So
Having worked there, I have to acknowledge that that's actually a pretty brave stance to take. So like internally, clearly the right thing to do. So that's actually really good news that I will admit surprises me a little bit. So great for Duke. Great news. Anything else on that? Okay, thanks for the update. Royal Central.
He had to leave at 9, but I'm assuming no new updates.
Okay, thanks for letting me know. Okay, Mary Rose, Vision Zero.
Yes, so one of my notes was that the streets and sidewalk bond referendum passed, which we've already touched on. We also recently adopted NACTO street design guides and are integrating them into our UDO. And then we're continuing to work on the first draft of the Vision Zero action plan. I believe it's still planning to be done by the end of December. And then I think presented to council in January.
Got
and
it.
That's it.
Thank you for that detail. Okay, thank you. Committees. I'm going to put these in a different order because I feel like I call on you in the same order every month. Nathan, could you go first on this one?
Yes, we met, we talked, I'm gonna skip through some stuff, blah, 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 blah. We mostly talked about CIP requests and, like what we wanted there, and then we have now transportation's pre-CIP list, so we'll be reviewing that at next month's, and I'm gonna try to get Parks and Recs pre-CIP and Public Works pre-CIP if I can, and then we can look at all those as well and see which ones we love the most and want to be like, you should do what they asked for. And that is our immediate plans for next month. And that's good enough.
Fantastic. Great work. Thank you. Hannah, would you like to go next?
Yeah, community engagement committee met last week. We talked a little bit about social media. Andres is prepping some fun bond celebration and end of year posts that'll go out in the next few months. We also did just a little bit of looking back and looking ahead and starting to think about what the community engagement committee wants to do in 2025. One of the things that came out of that was the Sanford project. So we talked a bit about that. We're also looking at, I have to give a shout out to Maggie for pulling in the pedestrian focus. We're going to think about over the next few months trying to set up an engagement session with some running clubs and thinking about how to tie that in with feedback for the bike and walk plan. So more to come there. The other thing we talked about, I think more planning to come, but is on our radar, is potentially doing another walk audit in 2025. So still very much in the planning stages for all of this, but encourage folks to come on out to the meeting if you want. We are small but mighty, and all participation is encouraged.
Fantastic. Thanks for grabbing that baton and running straight away. I really appreciate it. Scott.
Yes, so Development Review Committee, we have 15 cases. It's very active point. Either that were recently submitted that we talked about and are coming up soon, or new ones that we've been assigned. And just at a high level, there's a lot going on in Northeast Durham on 98. There are 2 projects. There are a couple that are off of I-85, north of Durham. There are a couple in RTP, and then various little like 1 acre, 10 townhomes things here and there, just infill kind of development. They're mostly development and a couple of mixed use. There's some big ones, Lee Village off of 54 near I-40 towards Chapel Hill, 85 acres mixed use. And then there's one, at Ellis Road that's only 1.25 acres with 20 townhomes. So we're getting big ones, we're getting small ones, and we ask for similar bicycle and pedestrian features in just about every one. We want multi-use paths on the frontage of the property, and as Brian Taylor explained in the beginning, we used to have as our standard a 5-foot sidewalk and a bike lane, and now we're really pushing for a multi-use path. So as soon as we get the bike walk plan updated and we have that as our standard, hopefully that will be kind of what we're always offered and don't have to beg for it. So anyway, busy times and a lot going on, not just with our committee, but just reflection of how much is happening in Durham and how many townhouses are getting built. Also, let me give a quick shout out to John Lawler, who's jumped in on the committee, and he gets a gold star for volunteering to take a lot of these development plans, and just really he's dove in. So thank you, John.
Thanks for that. Scott, I do have one question from the chat from Chris, which is regarding, has there been any movement or resolution on that Vivo Living pedestrian issues we raised?
I don't know. It's kind of up at the city council level now. I'm not sure, kind of once these get to that level, I don't see the outcome really. Carl may know. I see Carl's hand is up.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I'm glad you mentioned this, Chris. So that Vivo Living is coming up. Ivy Living is coming up at our next meeting in a couple weeks. We just approved. So last night we approved their project that's at the corner of 54 and 55. And I know that so Scott had a long conversation with this guy, Tarek, who's one of our principals there, who was pretty evasive on the stuff that Scott was suggesting on the Ivy Living place, right? I talked to the manager afterward. I knew you were frustrated, Scott. Talked to the manager afterwards and said, like, so should I bring this? Should I like? Because I know what it was. They were trying to get this small path between their property and MLK, right, where there's connectivity, and they didn't know who owned the property. Scott found out that it's owned by DOT, which makes it complicated but not undoable, right? And so I know Scott feels frustrated. What the manager said was like, so I said, should I ask for more? This ask him to do it, or should BPAC? She said because of the sort of like difficulty in our laws, North Carolina, that I can't make my vote contingent on that. I think if Scott, if you'd be willing to make one last sort of push at Tarek, since he did get that approval last night, I think it's kind of fresh in his mind. I think he wants to, be seen as, being, amenable to what the leaders want here. So I would make one more run at it, and I'll push him hard in the meeting. Because again, it's only hassle for him. It's doable, right? It's a DOT right away. I think he should really make a push at it. So
yeah, the one you approved last night, it's honestly a death trap. We talk about pedestrians and, like there's a sidewalk that ends in the middle of their driveway with nowhere to go. So a little child on a bicycle rides out there. Now you're stuck in the driveway. There's nowhere to, the sidewalk doesn't continue. Somebody in a wheelchair, or they're on the sidewalk. They think they're going to be able to go across. They ride out into this driveway. And the only way to kind of get around that is go down the driveway and around, and you practically have to get on 55. I mean, I feel like that one is such a safety issue that I'm not saying it shouldn't have been approved, but somebody needs to fix that one. It's a death trap.
Appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah. That was, I think what they offered there, like, they'll build a bus shelter there if Go Triangle wants it. So they were sort of being flexible in some stuff, but on the other stuff, you're right. They weren't willing to budge on that.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for those updates. Before I move on, any other questions or comments around committee or liaison reports? Just want to make sure I didn't miss anybody. Great. Do we have any general announcements or updates that we've not covered already? I think we've been pretty comprehensive. Not seeing anything. Great. Okay, let me go over the communications and action items I have. Let's Okay, so Landon, you're running point on potentially a in-person visit to the sites in question at the ATC in Fayetteville Street. And we will be discussing this in some form at the next meeting, possibly a letter. We can maybe work out some details in committee meetings or on email this month, but we'll certainly add that. Mary Rose is asking Bike Durham about training for Week Without Driving, potentially even presenting that next month. I'm going to contact Lauren for an update on the Vision Zero action plan timeline, though it sounds like I already got it. So that might just be make it official email. So that will maybe be January, but maybe we'll ask for her to come to us in February. But I'll take care of that email. We're going to wait and see on the youth position pending city council vote. So we might have a little discussion about that going to the next meeting. I will poll everybody on weekend availability in January and maybe a little into February to try and settle on a date for the retreats. And I think that's it. Did I miss anything? Hannah Bartlebow is taking that application to Duke. Awesome. And Landon's making a run in a letter. Fantastic. Okay. I think we're all done with 4 minutes to spare. Sort of. Thanks, everybody. This was a great meeting. I really appreciate the high level of attention and engagement. I won't keep you any longer. Have a great night.
Good night, everybody.
Meeting's adjourned.